This is the Chaz and AJ podcast, WPLR.com.
Harry Reid, good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be on your show.
We wanted to go right to you out of the break there, but we understood you wanted to hear Black Sabbath first.
I'm more of a Killers fan.
Awesome. Oh, good choice.
Harry, I'm proud of you. That
Good
was
choice.
great. That was great.
Good choice.
I do have to confess right up front that I know Senator Blumenthal, when he was late presiding for his first Senate, he was late, and you had a little chit-chat with him. That was our fault.
Yep, we did it.
Yeah, he was on our show that morning, and we asked him to stay for an extra break.
Well, he didn't throw you under the bus. He should have.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah.
I heard you're a boxer.
Well, that was a couple years of my life. That was a long time ago.
And what do you, we're here in Senator Lieberman's office, and just the, he has good friends from both sides of the aisle. And how would you describe Senator Lieberman?
I won't listen, Harry.
No pressure.
Well, Joe and I are good friends.
We really are.
I have warm feelings about everybody in my caucus, but Joe and I have really a very, very special relationship based on some of our family situations. And I've found we've worked together in some very, very difficult times. And the one thing I found about Joe Lieberman, there's often times I disagree with him. I think he's wrong what he's trying to suggest we do on Medicare. But at least Joe always lets me know how he feels, what he's going to do. He's not one of those guys I go to and he says, well, let me think about it. Joe is somebody that said, I've already thought about it. Here's what I am going to do. And I appreciate his honesty very, very much.
I appreciate that answer, Harry. And, I want to say to Chaz and AJ and anybody listening, what Harry said is true, and I guess it's often lost. We're colleagues in the Senate, but we've been working together now for 23 years, and you get to know a lot about each other personally, and we've shared a lot of ups and downs in our personal lives. And I will say Harry really was great to me during the tough times in 06 and after, stood by me after 08 when there was an uprising. Incidentally, Chaz and AJ were really great supporters in 06, Harry, so I'm among friends this morning.
Joe and I did something then that's really historic. I wrote about it in my book, and I'm sure he will write about it in his memoirs.
Right.
But for both of our careers, that was a turning point because I felt confident that my caucus would go along with what I decided to do. There were a lot of doubters, but we took it to the caucus, and we did what we thought was right, and it's turned out remarkably well. Had we not done this, the direction of the country would have been changed. We did things during the last Congress that we needed every vote we could get, and to not have Joe with us would have been a tremendous mistake for the country.
Senate Majority Leader on the phone right now, Harry Reid. Did you and Senator Lieberman have a chat before he announced that he would endorse Senator McCain?
Oh yeah, he was in Georgia at the time. not Atlanta either. And we had a conversation. We sure did. Joe will remember that. And
I do.
How did that go? What was that like?
Well, I was terribly disappointed.
Yeah.
But he, as strongly as he felt about John McCain, I felt just as strongly the other way. But Joe's someone who has based his entire life on personal relationships, and I understand that. And even though I was disappointed in that, I wasn't disappointed enough that I didn't want him to be part of my team.
Did you feel like a parent whose daughter was going to marry someone that you didn't approve of?
No, I felt more like a son whose father had gone awry.
What are you doing, Dad? I know what you just did.
Well, can you give the folks listening in Connecticut a sense of what we're going to lose when he's no longer our senator?
Well, I think the history books have already partially been written in that regard. Here's a person who came to the Senate. Many people thought he couldn't win at the time. I didn't know him at all, but I knew I wanted him to win because I'd served with his opponent, and I gave Joe help very early on.
Yes, you did.
And he came to the Senate and has been a stalwart. in leading this country in the right direction. I mean, he's been I can remember when we spoke from his home after he had been nominated. I think, quite frankly, it surprised both of us as vice president.
For vice president, right?
We have followed each other's careers. You know, I've had a few ups and downs myself, and Joe's always been very supportive. And he is a quarter of a century that he will have served in the Senate from Connecticut, plus his work as Attorney General. He will go down as one of the great leaders of our country during that era.
Thank you, Harry.
I'm writing that down right now. That's the quote of the day.
Yes.
Yeah. What's a crazy? You're the Senate Majority Leader, and so you need to get senators all on the same page. Senators who are known to be on their own page. Like, if you had to compare your job to another job, what would you compare it to?
Oh, I don't think there's another job like this.
Like a cat herder,
Zookeeper?
No, it's really, while there is some periods of time that are difficult, most of the time my job is very joyful, and I say that seriously. The ability to work with these, when I first came to the Senate, we had one woman. Now we've got 14 Democrats alone. It's a wonderful experience to work with these. In their own right, every one of the senators, regardless of their political philosophy, are real patriots, and to work with them every day, working toward the same goal, is really a pleasure. I mean, they're difficult times, but that's the same way it is with the baseball team. Sometimes, you know, you have somebody makes an error, someone strikes
when you
out
say
when
someone,
the bases are loaded.
are you referring to anyone in particular?
But the one thing I've learned, the little bit I managed some 13-year-olds in baseball, I learned at that time, if someone makes a mistake, an error, you don't tell them about it. They already know that. And I also learned that if you are upset with somebody and you jerk them out of the game, it never works unless you have somebody better than they are to put back in their place. And the way around here, I don't have many substitutes, so I work with what I have.
Harry, hearing you use the word mistake just brings back one of my favorite stories about my mother of blessed memory. After I got nominated for vice president, I had this amazing evening where she goes on Larry King, and Larry is interviewing her. And then at one point he says, Mrs. Lieberman, what do you say to your son when you believe he's made a mistake? And my mother says, mistake? That's when the Gore campaign knew that my mother didn't need a writer. She would do her own stuff.
She's good.
Well, Senator Reid, I know your time is valuable. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks for being a good friend to our good friend, Senator Joe Lieberman.
Thanks,
Sure,
Harry.
welcome. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. We are live in D.C.
Want more? Hit podcasts on WPLR.com.